All right, so welcome everyone. We're so happy that you're here. In case we have not officially met, my name is Rachel Einbinder, and I am a certified nutrition practitioner, and I focus on gut and metabolic health. And the reason that we're here today is because one of the biggest things that I see with my clients is not that they don't know what to eat, it's that doing it consistently in real life feels overwhelming. So we talk, about eating variety. Everybody knows that it's important for your digestion and it's important to add plants into your diet. But then when it comes to actually implementing this and putting this into practice, that's when things just tend to fall apart. But today is really about helping you figure out how to do that in a way that actually feels simple and doable in your life. And that's why I'm so excited to be here with Suzie, who's going to help us make this into reality. So, Suzie, I know a few of us know you here, but if you would love to introduce yourself and share a little bit about what you're going to be supporting us with today, that would be great.
Thank you. Thanks, Rachel. So I've been on my own health journey with various things and I've worked with several nutritionists in the past. When I was in a place of burnout and overwhelm, I really took it on myself to work out what was going on and to start uh, making myself accountable to improving my health. I was a trained chef and working very much in the food industry. And so I knew everything I needed to do. I just wasn't implementing it. So I was very passionate about working out ways in a busy, chaotic life. How can we bring all of that speed, efficiency that you see in a commercial kitchen or in a professional setting? How can we bring it home? So I'm a culinary coach. I work with parents, mostly mums, um, building up the organizational systems so that they can cook for themselves, for their families, 80% of the time without the stress and the hassle. Um, uh, Alongside that, it's skill. So you've got organization, then you've got skill. So I teach people a wealth of different skills, basic French culinary skills, knife skills, and then introduce people to different cuisines around the world so that they understand what they're doing and why, so that they can do so with confidence and ease. So that's kind of a little intro about me and what I do. But most of what I'm doing is all centered around trying to eat healthy, whole food as much as possible. So that's where Rachel and I decided to work together and do a little collaboration. We met each other in the city in Toronto, and this is our opportunity to speak to you guys how we can bring some of that practical advice to the table. So, Rachel, do you want to introduce our little quiz?
Yeah, for sure. So, to start us off, we're going to do a little activity. And what you need for this activity is something to write with and a piece of paper. And if you don't have a piece of paper, then just grab your phones, open up your notes app. So something that you can just take some notes with, okay? And this is not a test. This is just a little fun activity that we wanted to do. And we're going to be getting a quick little snapshot of where we are currently, okay? So what we want you to do is we want you to think about all of the different plant foods that you've eaten this week. Okay. And if that seems a little overwhelming, just start with maybe what you've already had today and work your way backwards, to Monday. Okay. So we'll give you some time to think about that. Anything plant related.
Any plant. So, a plant is your morning coffee. A plant is the spices that you added to your potatoes last night. A plant is rice, wheat.
Hmm.
Have a little think. I'm going to do some chopping whilst you guys have a little think.
Nuts, seeds.
Yeah, nuts and seeds for sure. So, more so in the UK, this is said, but there's a lot of the big health gurus, health voices out there in the wellness industry are saying that we should be aiming towards 30 different plants in a week.
Yeah.
So in the UK especially, the old advice was, eating 5 different veg and 5 different fruit per day. And now kind of the trending bit of information is working towards a total of 30 different plants in a week.
And I'll be going a little bit into why that is momentarily, but we'll give you another few moments.
So, sorry, is that a question for us, like to think about the plan?
Yeah, so think
Okay.
about what you've eaten in this past week,
Yeah.
anything that counts as a plant, and jot it down. So think of, what did you have for breakfast today?
Mm-hmm.
Were there any plant foods that you can include in your list?
Okay. That's
There's,
interesting. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
don't worry, there's no right or wrong answer. It's
Oh,
just good for you to start
Mhm.
getting those cogs turning and have a little think about what have you eaten this week. What
Yeah.
was your question?
No, I was just going to say that for me, this topic is very interesting because in December I was with a doctor
mhm,
uh, doing real food and nutrition for fertility because I have PCOS
mhm.
and some hormonal issues, and changing some small things that this doctor told me. I have recovered my cycles, which is like amazing. For example, like
Amazing.
doing um, uh, protein in the morning before like I have any sugar or whatever, like or bread. It's very important. She was always saying, have one egg first of all, or like,
Yep.
and yeah, some small things I've been doing that I see the impact on my health. Yeah.
That's
Amazing.
amazing to hear. Yeah, I was very much the same with blood sugar stabilization.
Mhm.
That's always something I'm very sensitive to. Always have been very sensitive to sugar. So, always
And
making sure I've got a good fiber, fat, and protein heavy breakfast.
and with PCOS in particular, right? There's a big insulin blood sugar component to that. So the more that you can focus on that, the better for sure.
Yeah, totally.
Oh,
Okay, shall we stop you there? Victoria, if you haven't got anything written down, don't worry, you can guesstimate it. Who thinks that they are getting around at least 10 plants in a week? At raise of hands. Yeah. Yeah. Anyone getting towards 15? Yeah. Hands up. 15. Yeah. Okay. Anyone going towards 20 plants? Yeah. Okay. And is anyone thinking that they hit the full 30? Raise of hands if you think you hit the 30. Okay, so this is not a test. It's just a little experiment. It's something I like to use. I'm not a nutritionist, so it's just like a fun thing I have in my head and a little bit of a game. And I find when I work with my clients, one of the easiest ways to get more plants into my diet is to bounce around the world to different cuisines every night, because then naturally you're going to be leaning into different carbohydrates, different nuts, different seeds, different spices, different vegetables, so that you can build that really nice and easily. So today I'm going to be demoing a little omelette for you later, and we're going to be using that to see how many different plants that we can get into one meal. And Rachel, you're going to expand on why this
yeah.
matters so much.
Yeah.
Why is it important? Why do we need all of these different plants?
For sure. So, as Susie alluded to earlier, in the research, what we're seeing, especially from large microbiome studies, there was one specifically called the American Gut Project, which is the one that keeps being, repeated and people keep talking about, is that people who eat around 30 plants or more, of course, tend to have a more diverse microbial diversity in their guts. And what is that? It's basically just a fancy term for having a wide amount of good bacteria in your gut. And so that is going to be our goal, right? Our goal is to support a more diverse, a more balanced gut environment. And of course, like we just clarified, it's not 30 plants per day. It's 30 plants per week, which, is a little bit more doable when you think or when you think about it that way, not so overwhelming. And one thing to keep in mind is that you don't want to jump to this number overnight, right? So if you're someone who started at 10 today, hitting 30 tomorrow is not going to be pretty. You're not going to like us. So very important to keep this in mind when you're starting to introduce more variety. Just add one or two plants per week and making sure that we're still staying hydrated as we do that because we're increasing the fiber, right? And that's more than enough for you to get started with. And again, it's not about overhauling our lives. It's just about finding something that sticks and something that actually feels sustainable. So, many of us already know that we should be having more variety, but how to make this happen in real life is the key. So, let's take a step back for a moment because now that you've actually taken a look at your list, I want us to think of one simple idea. I want us to think about whenever you're, building a plate or just thinking about your meals, how can you expand it? So how can you make that more wider in terms of the diversity that you're going to be including in your meals? Many of us already know what a healthy meal should look like, right? You need to make sure that you're eating your vegetables. You have to make sure you're having your whole foods, that your meals are balanced, that they have protein, that they have fat, that they have fiber. But what ends up happening is that many of us are just eating the same foods over and over again, using the same ingredients over and over again. And, it makes sense because it's easy. You know how to cook those things, you know what you like, you know what fits into your routine. And so you stick with that. But when it comes to your gut and your overall health, variety really does matter. So inside our gut, we have trillions of microorganisms, otherwise known as our microbiome. And the thing is that these microorganisms are picky eaters, just like some children might be, or maybe some of us are. And they only like to eat specific types of fiber, i.e., specific types of plant foods. So when you are eating that same diet over and over again, that means that you're not feeding certain microorganisms. And at the end of the day, what makes our gut resilient and strong is having many of these. So we want to make sure that we are actually eating a variety of plants and plant foods so that we can actually support these microorganisms that are there. A more diverse microorganism is generally going to be more resilient, right? So you're going to be able to have better digestion. You're going to be able to absorb your nutrients better. You're going to be able to communicate with your immune system better. And you're also going to be able to adapt to changes in your diet. So maybe you've gone on a trip and you see others that have, stomachs that are of steel. They can eat anywhere, anything, and they're totally fine. Meanwhile, with you, perhaps just going to the wrong restaurant will automatically cause some kind of a trigger. So if you have a resilient gut, then you will be able to be a little bit more resilient when it comes to different kinds of foods. Same thing with our metabolism, right? A strong microbiome equals a stronger metabolism. You're going to have less inflammation. Your mood is going to be better. So, just in general, how we respond to different foods will be greater. And one simple way of doing this in real life is using a structure to your meals. I like to call it my PFF plating formula. And I'm actually going to share my screen if you give me a second here. Um, go. Not happening. Try this again.
Keep going. I can share it for you if you wish.
Okay. No, it's not popping up. Anyways, so you're all going to be getting a handout of this, so you'll have your own copy. But what it is essentially a plate. And in the plate, PFF is your BFF. So we need to make sure that we're having protein, fat, and fiber in every meal. So if you think of a plate, half of your plate, if you fill that up with vegetables, and then you have, here it is. Thank you, Susie. Okay. So you see half of it if you fill that up with vegetables, and then a quarter of that if you fill that up with your protein, and then the other remaining quarter, you have it with some good quality carbohydrates. So that on its own will give you a recipe for not only making sure that you're hitting the PFF, so your proteins, your fat, and your fiber, but it also makes sure that you have a blood sugar balanced plate as well, right? And this is very important because, we want to make sure that when we're eating certain carbohydrates, for example, our blood sugar doesn't automatically spike. And so making sure that you have protein and fat in there minimizes that. Okay, so super important. And here we have different examples of different proteins, of different veggies. And then the fat is just the oil that you would add to that, or that is already included even in some of the proteins that we eat. Okay, so when you start building your meals in this way, a few things happen. So, number one, you're going to feel more satiated because now you have a fully balanced plate in front of you. You're not going to be super hungry and grabbing for little things here and there. And of course, stabilizing your blood sugar as well, like I mentioned. Okay. And connecting back to our gut health, it also just makes it a little bit easier to increase our variety when it comes to our diet. So instead of thinking about, oh my goodness, I need to be hitting all these 30 different plant foods, now you're just asking yourself, okay, well, here's my plate, or I need to think about what's for dinner. What's my protein source? What's my fat source? What's my fiber source? And then you can just start switching it up in terms of what those are going to be so that your variety and the diversity increases in the diet. Okay. And another thing to think about is a garden. Okay. A garden is an analogy that I like to give. If you are planting just one or two things in your garden, then yes, they might grow, but it's not going to be a very strong and resilient garden. If you have more variety in there, then now it's going to be more balanced and supported, and the environment just becomes stronger. And that's the same thing that happens in your gut. Okay. So, again, I understand that many of us are dealing with not having enough time, being busy, juggling a lot, making sure that everybody in the household is going to be eating the meals that we prepare. So we just start going into this automatic system. But at the end of the day, we just need to implement a structure and create a new system so that we're able to consistently bring in new foods, right? So again, it's not that we're doing anything wrong. It's just that we haven't implemented those systems. And when we create them, then that's something that we'll be able to keep up with our life. And that is what Susie is going to be helping us with today, right? So not just giving us the information, but how can we create this and make this magic happen in our kitchen with our routines and with our real life?
For sure. Thank you for all that education. Rachel, does anyone have any questions for Rachel before we kind of move on slightly? We're all good for now. Okay, so as Rachel has shown for us, it's important that we're eating a variety of mixture. How are we going to get there? on a frequent basis. Organization is key in a kitchen and just throughout your week. People have immaculate homes these days, everything's tidy, and their fridge is like the messiest thing ever. Your fridge is where your fresh produce goes. Your fridge, if you're not cleaning it and keeping it clean, that is a little bit of homework for you. Your fridge should be cleaner than your bathroom. It's where you're putting the food, the most valuable thing that you're buying every week. Keep it nice and clean. You're keeping your produce fresh, and then it will inspire you to, when you see this lovely bunch of vegetables that are looking fresh and vibrant in your fridge. So I'm going to walk you through a few things today, and then I'm going to be cooking. I've actually started cooking and chopping whilst we've been chatting. But today I'm going to be showing you how to make an omelette that's packed full of veg and got a few little things around the side. So one of the key things that I bang on to people about is knife skills and setting your kitchen up for success. So there's one concept that I'm really passionate about, and it's your kitchen triangle. So right here is where my chopping board is. Here is where my stovetop is, and right behind me is where my sink is. These are the three most important things in your kitchen. Your fridge could be out in your garage for all I care. This is your kitchen, what we call your kitchen triangle. You want to be one step from your chopping board, one step to your stovetop, and one step to your sink. It means that you can keep your kitchen tidy and cook in a really, really efficient way. Okay, so if you are, the only thing you can move in your kitchen is your chopping board. So think, where can I position my chopping board in my home to make it work so that I'm not having to run around all the time? The second part is knife skills. Now, I've got a very small selection of knives, but I've got them stored up here so that they don't get damaged. Knives should never go in the dishwasher. Hand wash them only. You will damage them. Don't put them into drawers. You will damage them. That's just a little magnetic knife rack to keep my knife nice and safe. Just give me 1 second. I need to plug something in. So we've got to keep our knives sharp. How do we do that? It's not complicated. You need a knife sharpener. If you haven't got a knife or an 8-inch chef's knife yet, then I would recommend going and purchasing one. You will need a knife sharpener and a knife, and you will also need something called a honing iron or a steel. You might have seen it before. Okay, so this is everything that you need. So if you don't have an 8-inch chef's knife, this is what your budget needs to allow for, both the knife and the knife sharpening equipment. Okay, because without the other one, you are not going to get anywhere. Okay, so having a sharp knife, really important. You are never going to be able to chop like a chef if your knife is not sharp. Okay, when you see chefs doing that speedy thing, you need to have a sharp knife. So onto my chopping board. Let's have a little look so that you guys can see what's going on. I have my lovely large chopping block here. Now, underneath my chopping board, I have a bit of rubber matting. Now, this rubber matting keeps everything, keeps my chopping board from moving around. So I now have an incredibly stable work surface. So my knife is sharp and my chopping board is stable. These are some of the biggest bits of advice I can ask you to do, is sharpen your knife and make your board stable so it's not kinked like a little plastic chopping board that's been in the dishwasher and it's all bent and kinked. Get yourself a big, nice work surface. Okay, so once you've done that, we could move on to knife skills. We're not going to be looking at knife skills today. Those are just like my best tips on what to do and where to start. So let's have a little look. I have got a load of different vegetables here to make our gorgeous omelette today. And we have got 4 for the price of 1 as far as peppers go. Rachel, does the different colours of something matter when it comes to diversity?
It definitely does. So not just the colors, but even if you're buying something like a pear, right? You'll
Yeah.
find at the grocery store, there'll be different kinds. So it's super important, if you're going to be buying pears, try to pick up ones that you haven't had before.
For sure. So one of my favorite things to do is just find like the same thing, like a pepper is a good example. And buy different varieties. Same with mushrooms, same with like onions. You have all the onions in the onion family. So you've got leeks, spring onions. I've got some spring onions, or green onions as Canadians call it here. We could have red onion, white onion, and then we can move on to different things. Whatever. I've got my green veg here today, so I've got some broccoli and also some zucchini. But you can see by just having good knife skills how much less time this is going to take me than perhaps this is going to take you at home. So it's like one of the best skills I have ever learned in life is knowing how to use and wield my knife so that I'm cooking with speed and efficiency.
And Suzie, for those of us maybe that don't have those
Yeah.
yet, is there something you can recommend for us to make the process a little easier?
Use gadgets. So I have got a gadget out today. I've got a food processor. It's just like a little mini one. And that will chop things nice and speedily. Use a grater. I love grating, like a zucchini grates really well. So does a carrot. Get creative. Use a peeler. Okay. And also take a moment to work out what you're doing. One of the biggest things that when you need to work out when you're using a knife is you should always be going down and away from you. Down and away, down and away. So it's kind of like a train going down a track. Can you see that? So tip of the knife in contact with the board, down and away. And when we break this skill down in steps, all it takes is a matter of revising it and going back and back and back, and you'll build up your confidence there. Rachel, do you use a food processor at home?
I do. My knife skills are not as impressive as yours. And to be fair, I feel like my knives need a good sharpening.
Yeah. So
My
a lot of the time people go and buy new knives, and it's like my pet peeve, because I'm like, the knife you already have is fine.
yeah.
You just need to sharpen it. And a lot of the time people don't have knife sharpeners. So this is a classic do as I say, not as I do. We want to try and keep our chopping board as clear as possible so that we got enough space to work on it. So many times I see people like working in the corner of their chopping board like this because there's no space on their chopping board. So I've just got 3 big piles at the top, and now I've got a little handful of spinach. So this is a really nice little skill. Here, got a handful of spinach. I'm just going to like wrap it up into a ball. This is called a chiffonade. And then it just makes it really easy for me to shred and slice through. So by a raise of hands, who doesn't like mushrooms, or who has a kid who doesn't like mushrooms? Anyone got a child who's not a big mushroom fan? No one in the room today. That's good. Often I find a lot of kids don't like mushrooms that much, and it's because they're like slimery and watery. So today I'm making an omelette. And about 5 minutes ago, what I did was took my mushrooms, just my mushrooms, and I put them into my frying pan alone with no oil in them to dry them out and get rid of some of that water, so that we're really starting to see our caramelization. So we're going to start building this omelette now. I'm going to show you what's going on. And we got all of our lovely veg to start going into it. So these mushrooms, can you see how they're dry? Dried out. This is kind of what we're looking for. And then we get that deep, gorgeous, dark caramel colour. So I'm going in with a glug of extra virgin olive oil. If there's one thing I like to invest in the kitchen, is a good quality olive oil.
Important, the type of oil you use, 100%.
Okay, and then we're going to start building. So I've got this lovely prepared bowl of different veg. I've got 4 different types of pepper, some shredded up, broccoli, more mushrooms. Have I done every colour? There we go. That's good.
Love it. It just looks like a rainbow.
It does look like a rainbow, doesn't it? Okay, spring onions or green onions and a bit of spinach as well. So you might be going, whoa, that's a lot of veg for an omelette. So what I like to do sometimes is I will like saute up a load of, saute means fry, a load of veg like this. And I'll have too much so that the following day I just cut a couple of minutes out of my schedule and I don't have to recook it if I was really pressed for time. The other thing I like to do is have additional vegetables to put basically inside my omelette and not cook it with the egg. And that will help fill me up. So does anyone ever have an omelette and they are like, oh, it was tasty, but it just didn't fill me up. It didn't keep me full for long enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, anyone have that? They're like, oh, it's not substantial enough. I might have a piece of bread on the side. So what I like to do is just go crazy on the vegetables, loads of fiber, vitamins, minerals, all the good stuff, polyphenols, and I'll stuff that in the middle. Rachel, what do you normally put in your omelette?
I mean, other than that, I would say sometimes I like to add even more protein. So whether that
Mm-hmm.
is like making sure I have extra egg whites or maybe adding in some cheese,
Yeah.
uh, depending if you can tolerate dairy, right? So all those things to really bulk up the protein. Because I know many of us will just have like the two eggs and think that
Mm-hmm.
is enough when in reality we want to try to aim for more 20 to 30 grams of protein per meal. So, something to keep in mind too, right? Like, yes, we're trying to get the variety in terms of the plant colors in there, but if you're going to be making some protein, how else can you amp it up?
Sure. So if I use 3 eggs, how much protein will I get?
So each egg is six grams,
Okay, nice.
about 18.
Alrighty. Back to our veg. So now I have this veg. I prep it once. I haven't. Ooh. Now I prep this veg. I have it for the rest of the week. So I will use this for the rest of the week. And one of my favorite ways to just store it is with a good old fashioned plate. You don't need cling film. You don't need anything. Just take a plate, turn it upside down. Okay. And then this can go into the fridge. I tend to just stack them on top of each other like this. And then that is prepped. And I will just go through this the rest of the week and use it when I need to. So I get to Friday and the veg are kind of starting to look a little off. What do I do with them? I don't throw them out if I haven't finished them. We always have a bolognese, a curry, a this or that, whatever it is, I use them up and I've got prepped vegetables just to increase the plant points there. So just the act of preparing something ahead of time will significantly help me out when I'm running through the door at 2 o'clock and I haven't had lunch and I have that all there for me. I find it a huge helping hand. So let's focus on our protein, Rachel. Cottage cheese, love it or hate it?
I love it as long as it's coming from a good source. When you're
Yeah.
having your dairies or your proteins, I do try to have organic options there just to minimize the extra hormones or things that get added in. So I think the quality matters. And cottage cheese is like extremely popular now. All the trends you see, all the recipes online, everything is cottage cheese. It's actually quite difficult to find the good kinds in the store. So,
It sure is, yeah.
yeah, that's one of the things that's always missing.
It actually bugs me because I can't find a cottage cheese that I find it really hard to find a cottage cheese that doesn't have like emulsifiers in the back and all of that stuff. So I tend to go for a pressed cottage cheese most of the time. So I've got some here. So this basically is just cottage cheese, but with all the water pressed out of it. So you actually have like more protein per weight.
Yeah.
And I use this anytime I put something into a blender. So I blend it and it becomes smooth, just like a cream almost. But when I'm doing an omelette, I tend to go for a wet cottage cheese. Are you the same, Rachel?
The same, yeah. Although I will say the drier ones are really good in terms of, you mentioned like it has more bulk, it adds protein, but When you're thinking of the creaminess with some of these recipes, sometimes they do use the ones that have water. So something to keep in mind when you're gonna
Hmm.
recipe.
For sure. I think it's a very dated thing in the UK. People like don't use it so much. And I absolutely love it. So I've got my 3 eggs here and I've got 2 tablespoons worth of cottage cheese. How much protein roughly are we looking at here?
Oh my goodness. So we're definitely over 20 now. So I would say maybe 25.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good going. So other ways we can increase our protein, we could serve this with some additional proteins at the end. And if you want to, you could put a little bit of, I always like to do a tiny bit of Parmesan cheese
Hmm.
in my egg mixture as well,
Yeah.
but not too much.
And if you are someone that likes to have your eggs with a piece of toast, right? Like the whole grains there as well, we'll add number one to your plant numbers and we'll add to the protein value as well. So something to keep in mind. And I love getting, sprouted um, bread. That's like my favorite. It's also more easily tolerated for your gut. Or sourdough is great too. So just some different options when thinking about what kind of toast to use.
So I've added in a little bit of salt here. Don't ever forget to add your salt into the egg. You'll end up with a very bland omelette. So very important there. So I've got my eggy mixture and I have got my vegetables and my veg are looking gorgeous. They've basically just softened down. We've got rid of a little bit of the water content by frying them gently here. And I have too much veg for egg mixture. Can I get my words out? Let's see. So I'm going to put probably about half of this in to my eggy mixture here. And then the other little bit, I'm just going to keep back and pop onto a side plate. Now, this is like a top tip, putting the veg into the bowl with the eggy mixture will help you out a lot. It will stop the sticking of the omelette. It will mean you get a perfect omelette and it won't stick to the pan. Talking of pans, what kind of pan should you use for an omelette? Rachel, what do you use? Non-stick?
I don't go for non-stick, to be
Yeah.
honest. Um,
Ceramic?
yes, so
Yeah,
I'll use
ceramic. So what I mean by a non-stick pan would be ceramic or a non-stick rather than your stainless steel or your um, cast iron. So I mostly use stainless steel and cast iron, and I have one cheap non-stick ceramic lined frying pan which I got at the supermarket. It's really not expensive at all, but we need a non-stick coating when it comes to making eggs.
you
Has
feel
anyone?
about just like a stainless steel one and then, making sure that the oil is hot enough. Does that work?
It does work. It does work, and I have it. But
Yeah.
when we're making eggs, are we normally in a rush? Generally, yes. Okay. So for a pan to come to temperature, they just need babying a little bit more. They need monitoring to
Yeah.
ensure that you have it at the right temperature. And I'm always making eggs in a rush. And
Mhm.
therefore, I use my pan that if I haven't got it at the right temperature, because I'm multitasking, taking a phone call, writing an email whilst trying to make my lunch,
Yeah.
then I know that I'm going to be in the safe zone. Okay. So now I've added in some more oil to the bottom of my pan, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add in my omelette mixture. I like to just give it a shake around. And now you can see that lovely, evenly dispersed egg. So top tip for you, take the eggy mixture, put the veg into the eggy mixture, and then put it back into the pan. Woman speaking from experience here. Much better than adding the egg into the vegetables.
Mhm. Or the other way around, I imagine too, right? Because some people put the veg inside the
Go
egg.
again for me.
Like, I guess also if you put the vegetables inside, I guess it would work if it was already cooked.
You've lost me.
If you take the vegetables,
Yeah.
made veggies, and you have the like you put it on top of the egg and then fold it in. Would that work
Oh
as
yeah, you can. That works for sure.
well?
For sure, that works as well. So that's kind of what I'm going to be doing here. I'm not going to be cooking it almost, but that it depends on the type of veg you have as well. Sometimes it's too crunchy, it's too raw. I prefer it when it's softer and a little bit more cooked. It works better for my digestive system. So that's doing its thing. It's on a medium heat, and I'm just going to leave it be. I don't need a lid on it. It's happy as Larry. Now for the rest of my plate. So, Rachel, if I wanted to take my protein to the next level, what could I do?
Your protein to the next
Yeah.
level? You've built a pretty good base there, but as I mentioned, like having I mean, if you want to serve it up with, I don't know, you have extra on hand. If you happen to have maybe some sausages in there, you could add that. If you wanted to sprinkle some seeds on top, you could do that. Serve it with toast that I mentioned. That will also add some more protein in there. But yeah, that's
Nice. Yeah, my a couple of my go-tos would be like a little bit of salmon or a little bit of like tinned fish. So I'll go for like a bit of mackerel in a tin. Always love that with eggs. Are you a fan of mackerel? Love it or hate it?
I like sardines, mackerel.
Sardines.
I'm I'm getting there.
Yeah, see, I don't like sardines, but I like mackerel. So we're all different. Okay, so salad, a little side salad to accompany our omelette today. In here, I've just got some lettuce and also some purple lettuce. Now, top prize, who knows what this is? What is this vegetable? What is this purple vegetable? Any ideas?
I know some people in here know. Type it in the chat.
Type it in the chat if you know. Okay, it's called an endive or a radicchio. Okay, and Rachel, why are we talking about this specifically today?
Yes. So when we're talking about our gut health and our digestion, bitter foods is one that typically gets forgotten. So if you think of, endives, radicchio, arugula, all those bitter tasting vegetables or just plant foods really help stimulate our stomach acid. And that's going to help you minimize your bloating, your digestion, and overall process. So, something to really keep in mind. Maybe you've heard of some people that take bitters to help with their digestion. So, instead of taking them, you can just include them in your diet. And that is minimizing something extra that you have to take.
Great. I love arugula. I love rocket, English word for arugula. I'm always having it as a side dish. I actually don't have any in the house today, but I 100% do love to use it. Alrighty, so last thing, we talked about it, seeds, nuts and seeds. Brilliant way to increase diversity and also add a little bit more protein to the plate. So I always have my seedy salad sprinkle. I play a game with myself. I go around health food shops and I try and find as many different seeds or nuts as possible. I have just toasted these in a pan and then at the last second put in a splash of soy sauce. Soy sauce is really salty. So these are now like a little salty, crunchy topping to add to my side salad. And I put this on like avo on toast. Whatever, any kind of salad. It's here and in my cupboard, and I love making a batch up like once a month, and I'll just use it up throughout the month. Do you have
Yeah.
a little salad topping of choice, Rachel?
I need to do what you do. I just tend to have, in my pantry the separate items, but
Yeah.
having it mixed like this is that would be a complete game changer and time saving trick. So, and the great thing, as you mentioned, is every time you go and you're low on, your little mix, you can change it up. So again, you're not relying on the same ones that you tend to buy, right? So I have on hand some hemp, pumpkin, sunflower, whether it's flax seeds as well.
Mm-hmm.
If you're changing it and, putting different things inside, then even better.
Yeah, so I'm big on seeds. Like I constantly have a seed mix. So I've got like a seed mix here in an old yogurt jar, and that's like my breakfast seed mix. It's just a load of different seeds that I've got here. We've got a little question in the chat. Any suggestions for families where seeds can be allergens? Have we
Yeah,
got a sesame seed allergy in the household?
of course, stay away from the allergens, and maybe just input something that they can have, whether you can't do seeds, maybe you can tolerate nuts, or what seeds can they tolerate. So something to think about.
Yeah, I'd try and go to a trusted supplier where there's not cross contamination. I'm sure you'll be able to find a supplier where it has no may contain in. Um, Sunflower and some seeds can be hard to trust what's okay. Yeah, I'd just try and find a trusted supplier. There's normally someone out there who has that allergy and then they start the business because they have that allergy. So try and find that person for seeds. I'm not sure on seeds, but I know definitely more for celiac as well. There's loads of people who've come up with amazing different products.
There's also certain, you can buy them in bulk from certain places and be very specific, but you can, of course, check, on the website or call them up and make sure that there's no cross contamination. But there are, what is it, L something, I'll find it for you so I can put it in the.
I find here as well, there's a lot of it in Canada. You go to the supermarket and everything's like being batched by the supermarket, and that's like for you, that's not going to be the solution. But if you go straight when it's in the packet, and because the supermarket has just bought that and then they package that themselves, so trying to find a supplier that there hasn't been cross contamination, that would be your best friend. But I know what you mean. Here in Canada in the supermarket is, yeah, noticeably harder.
Mhm.
Okay, I think we're good to present my lunch today, which is looking tasty. So how can we finish this off, this plate of food? We've got this lovely omelette here, which I've just cut in half. I've got my extra vegetables. So if I wanted to, I could have kind of put a few more veg here. I've got my lovely big side salad today, so I think I'm going to be good. But always nice just to cook up some more veg if you need it. And last but not least, herbs. Who has bought herbs this week in our plant counter? Herbs are probably one of the most underrated thing that we buy in a week. I love my herbs, and I'm buying at least 4 different types of herbs every week, and I'm using them in a variety of different ways.
And
One of
also,
the yeah.
I was going to say, like, incredibly helpful for your liver and for detoxing, right? So cilantro is amazing for that. Just having
Mm.
different herbs which really help with your liver support. Bonus.
Brilliant. And one of the biggest complaints I have with people is they're like, oh, but they go off. They always how many days does the chopped veg last? 4 days. 4 or 5 days. Um, for your herbs, often they will go off quite quickly. So take a cloth, a fresh cloth. This is called a J cloth. Wet the cloth, and then roll all your herbs into the cloth, like I've done here. I need to do it for my other herbs here, and it will keep them fresher for longer. You can increase the shelf life by like 10 days, honestly. So herbs need a little bit of moisture. Exception to the rule is basil. Basil does not like moisture. Everything else does. Um, 4 days for your chopped veg. I often find if I do that on a Sunday, I'll eat it through Thursday, and then on Thursday I'm like, oh, I'm going to be making a big pot of something, and I'm going to use up all the leftovers and pop it into that pot.
And using frozen veg is also another great option, right? Like if you find that you're making a bunch, you can always freeze and then thaw it out and then use it that way. It still maintains its integrity and the nutritional value of the food. So
I'm counting.
you can't, oh, yeah,
We've
that
got we got
is,
about 10 10 plants plus my seeds, which have another 8 seeds in it. So we're looking at like 15 to 18 plants just on one plate. Now, please don't go and do this tomorrow if you're not used to eating that amount of nuts, seeds, and all the rest of it. But it is manageable. We can increase diversity throughout the week by just having a little bit of a system in place and having a nice amount of fiber on our plate too. Rachel, would you like to eat this? Should we send it to you?
That is, yes, nutritionist approved.
Nice. Good.
Thank you for that.
Alrighty, I think we're going to wrap things up today. But thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure to see you here. If you guys have got any questions, then feel free to just hang around. And if not, we will end it in just a moment. If you want to get in touch with either Rachel or I, we're going to be sending you a follow-up email along with the recording, along with some helpful resources, the omelette recipe, the building a balanced plate PDF, and we would love to hear from you. So if you want to book a call with us, it would be a pleasure to talk to you and see how either of us could help you out. Rachel, have you got anything else to add?
I mean, I think you did a great job there. It was amazing being able to chat with you all about the importance of variety and just giving you some little tips and tricks to help with your digestion and being able to actually support this kind of variety into your day-to-day. So hopefully you got something out of that. And as Suzie mentioned, we'll be sharing some of the resources from today. And I'm also going to be including a little guide to if you're somebody who's experiencing some bloating. I have a guide that you'll be able to access to help with that and just support your digestion overall.
Amazing. Alrighty, ladies. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to end the recording here. Have a lovely rest of your day. If you've got any questions, hang around. If not, we'll see and speak to you soon.
Thank
Thank you
you
very much.
Thank you.